Good evening, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. So, what we'll do today, we're going to actually start our journey towards the cloud computing and the data and analytics that we have done so far in terms of configuration and the master data services, which we have seen from the governance perspective. I know we haven't actually done the SQL part of or the SQL based analytics and other part of the data engineering and analytical aspects. We haven't touched that, but what I want to actually include now, some flavor of cloud computing as well. And there are some reason why I want to go towards that particular direction. Before I go and I start showing you the Azure, AWS, and Google based cloud environments, I just want to discuss that why we are actually heading towards cloud and what are uh, the limitations and what are the challenges that we are facing in the local data center that are pushing our organization to move towards the cloud instead of building their local data centers. And both sides have the argument. People who are supporting the local data center, they have all their varied excuses to continue using the local data centers, but obviously the time is changing, the strategies are changing, the challenges are coming more and more, especially with the data flood or the overflow of information in the 21st century. So obviously we need to look at better way to manage that information. By saying it, let me first go and show you a couple of things before we proceed. So let me see if I can. My favorite tool, MS Paint. I'm going to actually show you a couple of things from the conceptual perspective, and then we dig into the cloud-based computing. So imagine if that is our server, and that server is containing multiple virtual machines. These are, let me just put. Now the challenge in here, these machines still have some limited capabilities, like you can allocate some resources. So for example, if it's my database server, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to allocate my data server, for example, 4 CPU cores, let's say 64 GB of memory and 5 terabytes of space. Now, and I just build an on SQL Server on top of it. So that's going to be my database server, which is sitting on the local data center. So if we now go back, we just put it in some sort of, yeah. So and just tag it. That is my local data center. Now, obviously, if I want to extend the capacity in terms of storage and memory and the CPU, I need to assure that my host server, which is a physical computer in the data center, that have the capacity to allocate these resources to all these virtual machines. But keep in mind, the capacity of the host machine is limited. Like at some point, it's gonna be reached out to its max, and then you are not able to allocate more until unless you upgrade this server or scale this server up in terms of resources. For example, install more memory, install additional disk into the server, and that's a cumbersome process. You have to order the disk and memory and make sure the engineers are there who can install it, and sometimes it takes time. Especially it requires more budget approval, and companies and enterprises, they have their own formal processes to go through and acquire the budget so they can upgrade their server. And then an additional overhead, obviously, that the host machine have its own operating system. So you need to make sure that operating system is fully updated and it has all the service packs which are applied and fully secure. Because imagine if your host machine is compromised, all the virtual machines which gonna sit on this host machine, thus have the danger to be compromised as well from the security perspective. So that create quite overhead for the infrastructure and operational team or security team who are looking after the servers in the local data center. Now, and obviously the time is a challenge, and we are living in a world where things are changing on day-to-day basis. So obviously we need some sort of mechanics or process where we can overcome or at least reduce that time as much as we can. So we can quickly continue with the requirements coming from the business. And tell you the truth, it's very common in the data and analytics space, like where things gets outdated very quickly, because like the data is growing exponentially. I don't want to tell you the number how big the data is going. We are now moving away from petabyte to zettabyte, and you can imagine the engine has been built, the analytical engine has been built to process the petabyte of data within milliseconds. So you can imagine how much investment these big companies they are doing to make sure that whatever cloud infrastructure they are offering, that is capable to address all these challenges. Now, by saying it, so that's our data center. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another one. So imagine that's my cloud environment. It can be AWS, it can be Google Cloud, or it can be Azure. So because I'm going to show you all three environment, because most of the features are almost similar. Obviously the technology stack is different, the services are different, but the way all these big players in the market, they are heading towards offering the services, the main concepts are almost similar. So there's a big advantage of someone if he's working on one set of technology with one cloud provider. It would be much easier for him to actually to understand the technology stack of another cloud provider, which might have a different technology, but the concepts are going to be very similar. And even the beauty is even now the languages which you can use to interact with these cloud technology, most of the language stacks are now uniform between all the cloud providers. Like for example, AWS, Google, and Microsoft, they are providing their CLI or API reference in all the languages which are famous in the market. So for example, if you understand Python, you have the capabilities that you're gonna write your CLI code, or scripting, you can do it in the Python. If you are a bash guy, you love writing in the Linux or Unix environment, so you have a great news, like you can consume the bash scripting, and you can manage your servers and services through the terminal on your Linux or Unix operating system. Or if you are C++ fan, or any other language fan, for example Go. Let me see if I can read it out. So we have the interfaces available in .NET. We have available in the interfaces available in Go, even Node.js and JavaScript. The APIs or interfaces or the toolkits, they are all available in these languages, and they are now quite mature. Like you're not gonna face any challenge to consume it and use it for your operational, or or the administration and configuration work, right? So the only difference is more like the services itself, that they might differ between provider to provider. But I tell you, the internally, if you have a good concept of these services, you're not going to face any challenge to implement or gain the benefit of these services while you are working with them. So by saying it, let's come back to the advantages of using the cloud environment. So the biggest advantages of cloud ability. You don't need to worry about your server's resources anymore. You can upgrade your server literally with some clicks, and your server is gonna be expanded to the next available size. Obviously, we need to work out the cost, and you need to find out, okay, how much it's gonna actually cost the organization. We cannot blindly, scale up our server. And there are scenarios where you can upgrade your server for one particular time period to address the load, and then scale it down back to the normal once that peak period has gone. So all those kind of scenarios you can address to address the demands generated from the business, right? Which is obviously not possible in a simpler way in the data center, because in data center you can still scale up and down the server. But tell you the truth, at some point you reach to the capacity, because the businesses keep growing. Keep in mind, the enterprises, the business are keep growing, and they have more and more demand every day. So imagine more and more the virtual machines gonna be built, and at some stage you're gonna ask for more budget to either scale up your existing host machine, or you're going to buy a new server. Both will cost organization some fortune. And like I mentioned previously, it's going to follow through a proper approval process, because the servers are not cheap. And obviously there is a full-fledged uh, delivery process where you need to order with the company, whether it's IBM or it's any other server in the market, Intel or HP. They're going to actually ship the server. It's going to come, and the guy's going to install in the rack, and then you're going to actually bring on the network. You can imagine how much that is required for you to actually bring the server over the network, right? Before it can be any useful. Compared to that, with the cloud environment, whenever you need a new server, you just need to do some clicks and fill up some form, and at the end it's going to actually create the server for you. And it's not actually uh, a lie. Within 5 to 10 minutes, you can literally build a server, a SQL Server database, because we are talking about the database and analytics, data and analytics. So let's switch to purely towards that context. Within 5 to 10 minutes, we can literally spin up the reasonable SQL Server database, and we can start using it. So imagine where you need so much time to set up the server, install the SQL Server on it. Now you have the opportunity that it is bringing as a service, and it has different flavor. And you can literally you can use, if you don't like the Azure SQL, like you don't need the SQL database only, you need more power, you can go and you can use the pre-configured virtual machine, which gonna have SQL Server installed. Obviously we're gonna see all these details. So coming back to the topic, we have the scalability, and obviously we have the flexibility. Okay. In terms of resources, we're gonna have unlimited, I would say, power. If you have a lot of money, then you have unlimited power to build as much as resources you can in the cloud, right? Obviously, the security is better, because it's Microsoft job to make sure, or AWS or Google job to make sure your data centers are secure and they have a proper disaster recovery plan. Now imagine, trust me, VR is a big thing. Because it contribute a lot in the trust of the investor or the board members. If they find out that the disaster recovery plans are not good, the risk mitigation is not good, they start losing the concept on the or the trust on the organization. So that's always be a very critical factor in the organization. Now imagine all the disaster recovery, it's gonna be with the cloud vendor side. All you need to make sure that your virtual machines are secure from your aspect, like nobody have unauthorized access to your virtual machine, your accounts are safe. So there are two parts of the security. One, Microsoft is going to manage, where they make sure that wherever their data centers are, they are highly secure, and if they go down, they have the alternate data center as well, or backup data center, where they can use that to actually bring up the server seamlessly without any interruption. So Microsoft, AWS, and Google, they invested a lot of money on implementing that architecture or these scenarios. Now, with us, what we're gonna actually responsible for, we're gonna make sure our virtual machine, whatever network we are building or whatever solution we are building, that is secure. We have it integrated properly with our Active Directories of the centralized authentication system, and people only authorized people have the right access to the right area. So nobody is going to be abuse any service, right? So these are our responsibility. Our accounts are secure, and we are following all the practices that the expert has provided. And obviously, you can see it's all about enterprise, and not a single or two person are involved. There are teams who are working together to produce such solutions. So these are some of the advantages. Now, another beautiful thing that what happened in the cloud, we have compute is separate from the storage. What does it mean? So for example, in our local data center, we attach the hard disk, which has been used for storing the data and the information. We attach it with the virtual machines, which are hosted on the same server, or maybe it's on a different server. What cloud provider does, they actually split it into multiple services. Now you build the virtual machine, which is more like your computer, which is gonna give you the power in terms of memory, a CPU, and the operating system. Once that has been built, you have the capability. You can actually use the unlimited storage, or you can use the disk which is separate from your compute power. We can obviously attach the disk while we are setting up our virtual machine, but beside that, we have unlimited storage in terms of data lake. Let me just put that, so I think that would be much easier. So with data lake means you have literally unlimited capacity to store as much data as you want, right? And that storage is accessible from your virtual machine, so you can literally interact with that data lake through your virtual machine, right? And obviously, if we literally discussing the storage with our virtual machine, we have the capabilities where, for example, if we allocate initially 10 terabytes, and later on we realize, oh, we need another 10 terabytes. So it's more like, just a couple of clicks. What we can do, we can allocate another 10 terabytes to our VM. So you can see how flexible or how scalable it is. Like within some clicks, you can actually achieve that, which was previously a big issue, right? And it's not gonna be a problem with Microsoft or AWS or Google Cloud, that they're gonna ask you, oh, we don't have the capacity. It's always going to. It's more like, the shop always have the hardware. So whenever you go them, they're gonna display the best hardware in front of you, and you pick, okay, I need these components, let's build it and then start using it. So that's the whole concept of cloud computing. And I believe you're gonna actually understand how cloud is changing the whole whole show of the data and analytics world, and not only the data and analytics, even the other side of the software development. The website launch, app launch are now quite easy compared to the previous processes, right? So that's completely another, I would say, an other era of the advanced development in the technology. So by saying it, I'm just gonna finish this video in here, and in the next video, I'm gonna actually show you the very first cloud environment, which is Azure. I'm quite excited, and I believe you are excited too. So stay tuned for the next one. And if you like this video, please hit like, and I'll see you in the next one.